the beginning to see if we got some more council members, but I'm not seeing more council members and time is short. So I think we should jump in. And Tabidi, I appreciate you being here as our vice chair. I think, hey, Maricela, I think I can do most of the facilitation, Tabidi, just because we're going to kind of run through the agenda for our council meeting. But if you want to just do the honors of like calling our meeting to order and then turning it over to Melissa, who can just do a quick like roll call check. And then we'll just get to our agenda, you know, leave some time for public comment at the end, and who knows, we might be out of here before 1. Tabidi?
Okay, sure. I'm just going to repeat your request, which is to call this November 17th of 2022 Youth Development Council Executive Committee meeting to order. And Melissa, if you would bless us with the roll call, would be appreciated.
Will do. Thank you, Tabidi. Robin Johnson, Celeste Jansen, Maricela Ortega Guzman,
Here.
Jeff Parker, Molly Rogers, Karen Spencer. And that is all I have on my list. I thought we had someone else, some other folks in this committee. Let me just double check. Right, we had Erica McAlpin, Zan Ojero, Diana Rojas. All right, and joining us is Robin. Welcome, Robin. I just finished roll call. I will mark you as present. Thank you. And a reminder that this meeting is recorded and it is public record, and there will be a few minutes at the end for public comment from any of our guests. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks to Tabidi for calling us to order. Again, thanks to our members who are here, and thanks to members of the public. We'll leave a little space. Melissa just said it could be around maybe 12:30 or 12:40, depending on how quick we go through our agenda. This is really our main discussion topic. We try to do this on a quarterly basis, just a week or 2 or 3 before our full council meeting, just so that we get some feedback from council members on the agenda items that we have for our quarterly meeting, which is coming up on Thursday, December 8th. Melissa, do you want to carry us over to the kind of rough agenda that you and I came up with, please? Look at that. Thanks so much. Maybe you can make it a little bigger. Is that possible, Melissa? Yep, down at the bottom. Yeah, there it is. Maybe a little bigger, yeah. Yes, there it is. All right, so here's our agenda. I think, as folks know, council members, if you have feedback on that kind of 8 a.m. start, but that's become our process, if you will. Goodness, I had not, given that I've been traveling, hadn't yet. We haven't gotten to an in-person or oh, Robin, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to make a point or a comment about the start time?
I don't have a comment about start time. I have a comment about my ability to participate, so I can wait.
Ability to participate today or just for the meeting? Sorry, go, Robin, to say your piece. We want to hear it.
Say what I gotta say. So I can only, I'm happy. Well, I shouldn't say happy. I can do 8 a.m.
Yes.
I'm not a morning person, so that's why I say not happy. But again, I understand why and
Mhm.
can get on board with that. I will be in Santa Barbara at the time and will need to actually just sign off at like 10:30. And I won't be able to come back because I am presenting down here. So I just wanted to, I don't know if that means that Tabidi should facilitate the whole thing. If you still want me to do the front portion and the welcome and all of that and the call to order, happy to. I'm still happy to completely participate from 8 to 10:30. And if that means I just shouldn't lead the front portion, that's okay too. Very long-winded.
No, all good. I see there. I see. Yeah, I think, Robin, you should do that up till 10:30, and then Tabidi can carry it from there, and which he just indicated in the chat that he could do. So let's do that.
Okay.
Combo.
Great. And Melissa, I don't have any of these on my calendar, so if you could send them to my sbch.org calendar, that would be great. I'm putting a personal hold right now so that nobody else will take that time. But yeah, just FYI, I don't have anything.
Thank you. I am sending an updated link. Recently, the Zoom links that I set up at the beginning of the year are all turning out to be invalid. So I am sending a new one soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds great. Yeah. Thank you everyone for working with my availability and when it stops.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Tabidi. Yes, Tabidi, December, the December upcoming December 8th meeting is what we're talking about. We'll do a welcome and call to order. And yes, to Robin's point, this first really 8 to 9, 9, 10 is kind of we do some breakouts, and we are officially calling the meeting to order, but then guests and staff and others are kind of pulled into breakouts just to give a little time to check in and ask questions, formulate ideas for the portion of the meeting that then will begin around 9. And the point I think I was also making was we haven't figured out how to, not because we're not trying, but to do a hybrid meeting. So it's not that I've done some hybrid meetings, I'll admit, and can be, depending on the technology, help good, but not always great. And so we're still wanting to ensure that the public service building where our office is appropriately outfitted and we can test that technology before we do a hybrid council meeting. And unless, Melissa or other staff, unless if you know something I don't know, and we've been trying to get there, but I don't think we're quite there. That's why we're having another meeting virtually in December. Our hope was that earlier this fall things would be further along, but everybody's running in a million different directions, and an election, it just hasn't been the top priority, I think, of the Oregon Department of Education and its sort of building and facilities folks. So you'll just have to bear with us, and we'll be virtual in December, and we'll see what happens in March. We'll keep you informed as we can. Melissa, any thoughts from you about hybrid or virtual?
No, I just made a note to myself to remind folks that this is virtual only and not hybrid yet and not in person, because that's the question of the day as we're getting meeting notices. Thank you.
But we'll go, we're in, Melissa was at the building the other day, and we're out, several of us are kind of in and out, but until we feel more comfortable with the space and the meeting rooms at the public service building, we aren't gonna go to a hybrid piece until we've, and maybe with a committee meeting or something, we can kind of test it out. But we're not quite there. So moving on, unless there are other questions, we'll welcome land acknowledgement, the quick update, which I'm happy to provide, but maybe we can have a member of the Equity and Disparity Committee do this update. Either one is fine with me. If council members have some opinion about this, right? We've sort of handed over to that committee the task of developing a YDC acknowledgement, trying to think creatively. I'll just as a point of like a reference, we have done some of these community conversations, and the one we did in the Pendleton area, our host for that community conversation was the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. They organized to have a young person attend the meeting and open the meeting up with kind of a blessing and just a bit of his own story. It was just a great way to kind of get started. So having a young person open things up, that's one just potential avenue, but also acknowledging the land and the history. We had another community conversation in Ontario, and I just sort of asked those from the community if somebody kind of wanted to open things up. I would not describe what happened as a land acknowledgement. I would just frankly describe it kind of as a meeting, opening, and blessing. So there are different ways that could go, but know that our committee is working on it. Robin, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm trying to multitask too much over here, but did I miss, are you saying two separate things, having a youthful person do some sort of welcome opening, maybe with me, maybe without me, great, and or also having someone from the Equity and Disparity Committee meeting, which I went to last time, where we were primarily talking about the land acknowledgement and giving an update. Is that two separate people? Or are you wanting that youthful person to also be aware of the land acknowledgement dynamic and it's just a one person?
I think I was because at the community conversation at the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla, it was actually one and the same. Like we had one person do a youthful opening and a land acknowledgement. That's just one possibility.
I love that. I just wanted to clarify. Yeah. And does that, again, maybe my intro or my welcome is a call to order, but it's actually inviting that youthful person to actually lead this portion around welcoming people in a land acknowledgement and giving an update. And do we have that person identified?
So Robin, I think you just hit it. I'm gonna go on and, well, actually, I don't know, Tabiti, Maricela, what do you think? We don't have anybody identified, I will say that.
Okay.
I like the suggestion. I don't think it has to be like a youthful person though. I think it, like, as long as it's like a member of the community, somebody who you know, feels passionate about speaking or like bringing knowledge or, you know, bringing attention to, you know, the land that we're on, or any background that folks want to give that maybe you know, relate to their culture or whatever, I think is great. I think it's, yeah, at this point, I'm not feeling strong either way, but I do like this suggestion just because it doesn't feel so rehearsed and we're just reading a paragraph where like people will be speaking from the heart or from their experiences, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Thanks, Maricela. Tabiti?
Tabiti, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the land acknowledgements they're okay. I mean, whatever the group wants to do. I mean, I have a philosophical this response that really doesn't apply to this, that some people have probably heard from me before. So whatever the group is comfortable with is fine. I have a more action-oriented approach to the whole, you know, acknowledgement concept. And so, which is not the question. So
Yeah.
my response is whatever the group is comfortable with is, I will support.
Why don't we, here's, I guess, way to just to move us is that perhaps, Robin, you can open and give somebody an opportunity to help open the meeting. This is, I'm thinking out loud here a little. We can then, so that there's a space that's created, and then as a second part, I think we do need to have somebody, I think it's probably, if Melissa, you could tell us whether or not Erica will be there, that would be really critical. So maybe we can work on if Erica's there, but either me or Erica saying, hey, as it relates to the land acknowledgement and the action-oriented piece and the thing I think that Tabitha you're kind of getting at, that is in process and being worked on, but it is not yet complete. So we will not have that work. I think they were going to bring some idea. I can't remember the exact timeline, but they were going to bring some ideas back to the committee. So probably at the next YDC meeting, I think we'll be able to actually have a bit more of a plan. Does that make sense?
So I have thoughts, but first I want to pause because Marisol, I think I saw you go off of mute and I see you're off of mute again. So did you have thoughts?
Yeah, sorry about that. Tabitha, I
No.
just want to say thank you for bringing that up, and Brian, you as well. And I think you made the point that I was going to make, is just that maybe reiterating, what our mission is. We hope to decrease the disparities within the Native American community and provide access or funding to support programs that benefit that community. Something like that, where we're, putting the action steps behind the land acknowledgement, I think is really important. And I think it's great that we can remind folks in the meeting, like, this is what we're here to do, is to decrease these disparities.
Yeah.
So I
mean,
have, Tabitha, please. Oh,
no, yeah. So yeah, there it is. It's like truth and reconciliation is cute, but it doesn't get you off the hook. And what is the action? So can rob your house and say, hey, I did it every day, but you don't get your things back. Are you satisfied? I mean, so anyway, I'm gonna be quiet.
How do we get to land back, right? So here's actually my proposal, is it sounds like this is actually a separate agenda item. So I think that we should, and please, these are just my thoughts, so I welcome pushback and other thoughts, and if the agenda's too tight for this. I think that there's a general welcome, usual, just from me, inviting folks in the space. I think that there's an identified person already who has some talking points around, there's a committee that's meeting and we're talking about these things, and yet there's still quite a bit of work to do. And that's why you're not hearing a land acknowledgement from us today, because if that's a useful person, I think fantastic, but only if they're ready, willing, and have the talking points ready, available to them. Then I think there's a pause to invite, does anybody else have something to weigh in on this as a general topic? And then I think we need to add to the agenda a more concrete, whether the topic on the agenda shows up as action items connected to land acknowledgement, and there's some space and time on this agenda to actually have space for folks to hear, when we talk about action, this is what we're talking about. And then I think that gives space for Tabitha's comments, Marisol, like any others, like actual, let's talk about action, rather than trying to squeeze it in as a part of our welcome intro spiel. It feels like it needs to be honored as its own thing.
Yeah, I like that. And Robin, can I'm just, I probably didn't get the floor yet and started talking, but certainly people saying, hey, nothing you can do. I can't change the past, but we're youth development division or council, and so we can impact the youth and the future. And so, what do we do in that reclamation project is our thinking here, right? Dealing with those youth. So.
This is fantastic. Real quick, Robin, my question is, should we do this agenda item closer to probably around 9:10?
Yes.
So that we can give it that space versus between this 8, you know what I mean? This, so, okay, I heard you say yes. I think that's what I would recommend, is we give it that space at the early, when we're getting to more business, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could even be a part of the, again, very intentional, very called out, a part of this 9:20 a.m. community engagement conversation. Like, that feels like a community engagement conversation topic. Maybe it's not, maybe it's a separate, maybe I misunderstand what's on the agenda here, but I agree that I think there's the welcome, again, this naming of the reason why we're not doing that acknowledgement is because there really brief updates. Again, whether it's me or someone else, I would love to hand it off if there's someone else. Brief pause for any other feedback around this. We do have it as an agenda item. And then I do think people feel like the 9 a.m. is the official. And again, in the spirit of honoring this as like a real topic to address, I would encourage it to be in the agenda as you're suggesting, Marion. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, I push back if you're like, the agenda is so tight, like we need to figure out what we're letting go of. I do think it's important enough to prioritize, but I think it's its own agenda item.
I think
after 9 a.m.
Yeah, I think we can. Well, Melissa and I will kind of, see how the time checks out and do our best to. But I think it will fit.
Okay, great.
In the space. All right. So then, I'm at 8 now, moving to 8:30. We will. It might be 8:20, 8:25. We'll see. We do welcome. We do call to order, right? So, to your point, I think we're saying, hey, land acknowledgement. Here's the reason why this isn't being shared. So that's a minute or two. Then we'll have some breakout rooms into which people can kind of chat, and maybe there are some conversation about just the agenda generally. Then right around 9, Melissa and I will make sure the agenda, we've got to check some of these times. So this is rough. We'll get into kind of our business. I wanted to, and maybe actually, now that I see this, I might not actually want to do this earlier, because Melissa will do a roll call at 5 after or 10 after 8. Melissa, we may want to move. We have a new council member, and her name is Janelle Thibault. Janelle is a high school student. Maricela had a chance to have a quick conversation with her. I had a quick conversation with her, well, a couple with her and also her mother. She had expressed interest in the council some months back. We had this really, if you're going to hear this over and over, but we had a tight window in which we could get the governor's office and the governor herself to approve new council and board folks. And so Janelle was approved, I don't know, in the last month or so. And so Janelle will be here. We should probably, Melissa, make sure we're actually acknowledging Janelle earlier when we do the roll call as a new member. So actually we'll move this sort of new member piece up in the agenda. But then I just wanted to cover some of these other topics. We've got some terms that are expiring. There's some required trainings that the state has for all members around, like I think there's maybe kind of ethics, and maybe there's an IT one, and maybe a harassment one. Melissa, you can, if my list is correct. We wanted to kind of get the 2023 meeting dates, just make sure we're all clear on some of this YDC business. Just felt like I wanted to get it done up front. So that's what that agenda item is. We can have a sort of actions around and commitments around our work with the tribal nations probably precede that, and we'll include that, but know that I felt like doing a kind of a YDC update early was important. If y'all think I should put it later in the agenda or somewhere, let me know, but that's what that agenda item is about. Any questions or comments? Robin?
I think if there's an email that's like, there's an email that was just sent to you with all of these required trainings and dates and where to go. I think that will help you not necessarily need to go to like a separate slide to spell them out, but just like it's in your inbox.
In your inbox.
That's
yeah,
my encouragement. If that doesn't make sense, then that's fine.
No, it makes sense. And I think, Melissa, we think we can prepare that close to the date, because yeah, I do not want to undersell or make it not something. These required trainings are required and essential, and so the governor's office and executive branch, right, our work, like they're very serious about, if you haven't completed these trainings, you are not going to be considered a member of this council or some other board or commission. And so they're trying to put some emphasis on that, and I don't want any of our council members to kind of be on the naughty list.
Yeah, I think it's important enough that if it can be a standalone message email, that's going to be really helpful for people to refer to and find, rather than it being buried in here are all the notes from everything we talked about on this particular day.
Okay, Melissa,
I would agree with that.
Go to BD, sorry.
No, I just said I agree with that. A standalone message for that is perfect.
Okay, Melissa, anything from you about this topic generally, or I don't know.
I appreciate the feedback on a standalone email, because I do waver between how many emails am I going to send to the council versus a standalone. I definitely appreciate the value of that, especially if it can come from me or from Brian, and a name that you recognize in your inbox. Perfect. Just one other thought as we're looking at this. I know the times are loose on here, and some components of the agenda can move around. I'm just thinking about the vote for juvenile crime prevention planning guidelines. We have Robin's information that you'll be at the meeting for a limited amount of time, so we'll consider any other RSVPs that we get, because we get comments from other members who maybe not be able to be there the whole time. Whenever we have a vote, we try to get it in the sweet spot when the most members are in attendance. So we have, what's the word that we have? So we have a quorum. That's what we,
Quorum.
Exactly. Thank you. So that's just the only note I had about the timing. So
Okay.
Might move a little bit.
Yeah, things might move. That's good.
Are we able to move the vote to before the break? Can we put it before community? Just like put it at the top, get it out the way, and we have the people in the room.
Yeah, I think so. We could put that right at 9:20 or not, whenever. Yeah, there it goes. Look, Melissa just did it. Boom.
Hey,
Yay.
Brian,
Yes, Paul.
just a note, we're probably gonna have to have a second vote as well with the youth grants stuff, because we have to have council approve. So I don't know if that matters, because Robin, I know you have to leave, so just wanted to add that. I'm fine whenever, but want to make sure we're able to have
I would
quorum.
put all the votes at the top. And I, again, like, if that is informing the land acknowledgement, tribal communities engagement conversation to later, I think that's fine. Again, as long as that particular conversation is a standalone conversation. I hope I'm here for it, and I understand getting the votes while we have quorum, and I trust the people in the room to hold the conversation even if I'm not available. And I'm happy to preempt it. Like we're giving at the top and say, we're having this little brief land acknowledgement update here, but please, stay engaged for this larger conversation a little bit later in the agenda, even if I'm not there.
Okay. That sounds good. Do folks have any feedback about the YDC kind of, I'll call it business update being later? With Janelle being new, but Janelle, we're going to put Janelle's being new way at the beginning. I'm just saying this out loud, Melissa, for you, like that'll happen at 8, 5 after 8 or whenever. The other member stuff, if we're going to send a standalone email, Melissa, you might even send a standalone email here, I don't know, this week, or you might get a couple emails about this. Is guess what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. As soon as I have reliable, succinct information on how best to guide you all to the training links and logins, that's when I will send it.
And I support the standalone message and being sent as frequently as we need to get people to actually do it, because I understand when you're in a heavily regulated state, you have to just push these things. Standalone message, frequent messaging around it, I support that. And if it's helpful to come from me at all, just let me know.
Yeah, that might, Robin, be helpful. Okay. So we'll actually do, any other, the member update, do y'all still want to do that early, or should I do that later? No opinions?
I think knock it out.
Yeah.
I think knock it out. It feels to me like the flow is welcome, check-in and breakout rooms, business, including voting, maybe a break, and then we get to the other things we need to get to. And if we can prioritize that land acknowledgement conversation, that would be ideal. After the business and the voting, while we have as close to quorum as we can get.
Yeah, Melissa, you just made it disappear. I hope you didn't mean to. It's not. It is. The business piece is still staying. It's still early. It wasn't supposed to disappear. It should be at 9:10 or 9 whatever.
I think it should go business, votes, break, and then other business.
Yep.
That's my recommendation.
Look at this, real time.
Yep.
So the YDC member update, other than Janelle, are there, okay, so we're doing all of that. I'm wondering if maybe we should, when we do the welcome call to order, that should be when we introduce Janelle, because then we're going to be in breakout sessions and everybody's going to be like, oh, who are you? So kind of.
Yep, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Marcia, Melissa and I will get that added after the welcome call to order, like a little Janelle intro.
And we may need to reintroduce her when we come back to the 9 o'clock time, just given that some people may not.
I agree.
Partake in the early 8 a.m.-ish.
I agree. Totally.
What I also knocked out was the vote for the youth grants. Sorry, that's what's missing now. So I need to get that back in there.
Okay. So we'll do this. We'll get to our state advisory group, juvenile justice. There's a vote around. I'm moving on to the 9:20 time slot ish. We'll do that committee, the juvenile justice committee has a item on which they want the group to vote, and Anya too will assist in making sure we cover other kind of juvenile justice state advisory group pieces of information.
How much time do they need, Brian? Because it seems like JCC, we normally have a long.
Yeah, it'll be 30-ish minutes.
Okay.
We'll get the timing. I'll talk to Anya and Molly about that. Make sure we get the timing right, but I'm guessing about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Then we'll move to the youth grants vote. Paul, remind this group what is the vote on the process, if I'm not mistaken, what we asked. Now it comes to mind. Paul, you can clean this up if I get it wrong, but each year as we're about to go into the legislative session and the new biennium will begin July 1st, we're going to come to you, council, with a proposal on the process for awarding our youth grants and the request for application and all that will look like. And so we'll just kind of bring you a sort of high level presentation on the process, which we then ask you to approve, and then we have the ability to implement and go forward. Paul, any other thoughts on that?
No, that's exactly it, Brian. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you got that in as a key voting item. So what do you think, Paul? Sorry, just rough time. Is that 15, 20 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes, 5, 10, or however many long for questions, and then a vote? Is it?
Yes, I think we're at, we had close to a 30-minute time slot. That'd be enough time.
Okay.
Yep.
30, got it. Any questions from council members on that? All right, I'm going to move to the next piece on the agenda. I know Melissa's working on adding a time, and Paul will be important to this piece too. We will be doing a presentation. I'm guessing, again, this is probably 20, 30 minutes of time on kind of updating and just discussing what we've heard and learned from our community conversations. We just turned the corner, if you will. We've done 5 so far: the Dalles, Redmond, Pendleton, again hosted by the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, Ontario, East Multnomah County area, and then yesterday a group of us were in Astoria. So it's just been a fabulous, set of conversations and meetings, and we've met lots of people and heard some critical pieces, some like positive, and keep doing it, keep doing things. Generally, the tenor has been in everywhere, like really, really good and engaged. So we'll just give you an update on what we've heard and learned. No vote, but just it's been a real important piece of the work over the last several months, and so wanted to give folks that. Paul, anything to add?
Nope, I think, and Brian, we can make it fit to whatever time frame works.
Okay.
On that, so I'm not too worried about the time on that. We'll get as much or as little as we need.
Okay. Yeah,
I think you'll get a lot of, if I were to read the group correctly, I think you'll get a lot of questions there. I think everybody is excited to hear about what community engagement looks like. So if there's a slide to provide as much like summary, like visual summary of how it's been going and what's been hit, and like areas have been hit, the feedback that's coming in, and people have a visual to react to. But I would just prepare us all to, I think people are so excited to hear about what community engagement looks like. I think you're going to get the most discussion and questions there, as opposed to some of this other kind of businessy, like, yes, we're interested and yeah, we want to vote, but people want to hear the narrative about what's happening out and about, because we're not able to, I'll speak for myself. I'm not able to be out and about like you all are, but I want to know what's happening.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, Rob, appreciate that point. We'll plan accordingly for that, or I'll plan accordingly for that for sure.
Thanks, Paul.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and big kudos to team members, Melissa, Joy, Bill, Jared, Molly. I mean, they've all played a real important role in obviously getting things planned and then implemented, but showing up. And Paul has been a road warrior. I will tell you all of that right now. But in the interest of time,
That's exciting.
Yeah, thank you. Move us forward. We'll have a little break at some point. Try to have a couple breaks in the meeting around on the hour-ish. We'll see how that works. Mm-hmm. I think there's kind of a natural break around 8:50, 8:55, 9 o'clock. Since we will have started at 9 or at 8, then we'll hopefully maybe there's a little break at 9, and hopefully somewhere around 10. Sometimes as the agenda shifts and moves, we decide on to kind of carry forward, but we'll figure out some breaks. Then at about 11, it looks like we will move to 10:55 or 11, move to a legislative kind of policy and strategic plan update. Cord is the one who will be preparing this piece. this will probably focus on kind of preparation for legislative session, our budget, any updates related to budget. I don't know if folks have followed the economic forecast came out. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So there is a prediction on the, a good likelihood. I can't remember the exact wording, but a likelihood of a recession. I don't know if it was a small or big recession, but a recession seems to be coming of some kind for the state, which of course affects the revenue picture. So we'll hit some of the kind of high points, and there may be, to Robin, to your earlier point, this is also an area where I tend to think people have, whether they're questions, but they have comments, and it's just kind of ripe for dialogue. Any thoughts on this piece?
I would just be prepared for questions around with the new governor, what that means for us.
Okay.
I think that's going to be top of mind. So I think if you have some talking points prepared, Brian, I think that'll serve all of us well.
Okay, that's good. Good.
I wouldn't skirt it as basic. I think if you don't include it yourself, you're going to get a lot of questions and then feel like, what do I say? But I think if you come in with some solid talking points, that'll have others, one, feel like, oh, you're keeping an eye on these things, which we all will, I think, bring some confidence. And then two, minimize just kind of free ball questions and more like, okay, Brian's addressed this, here are some more, like, can you build on this? What about this or that? I would prepare for that as part of this.
Perfect. Thank you. One of the pieces that's in this is that, and it's a sort of policy matter. I don't know if we should call it out as almost its own agenda item, but is this, and I don't know if Cord is on the line here, around the first reading of our re-engagement rules. So just a quick context, right? We've got money passed, not in this last legislative session, but actually in the prior legislative session, that 1921 as a part of the Student Success Act, dollars for the agency to develop a re-engagement system, help youth who've become disconnected from education. So over the last 2 biennia, we've actually awarded dollars, hope to get have a request into the legislature to approve dollars in the coming biennium. But there's some rules we're needing to write around the fact that in the last legislative session, it was approved that we could extend those dollars for youth up to the age of 24. So that was a key piece of legislation last biennium, or well, passed in the last legislative session. We haven't implemented that yet. We will implement and allow for programs to apply in the coming biennium for serving youth up to 24. So there's some rules we need to write around that. And we will have a first reading. Again, I'm not sure, Melissa or others, if Cord is on the call, but if you are, Cord, I guess I could scroll forward. Any comments? I don't think we need a vote. It's just more of a, hey, we're sharing these rules as the first reading, and then there's a period of time where they are open for comment.
Yeah, I'm here, Brian.
Cord's here. Cord, do you have thoughts?
Sure. Cord Bucher, YDD, for the record. Yeah, so everything Brian said is correct. So we're planning to publish draft rules for the month of December. So those will come out in probably the first week of December. We're planning to ship the final draft language over to Secretary of State's office next week. So what we're going to do is just provide a summary of what we have changed. The primary change is the expanded age range. But given that we're opening this up, we've had conversations with re-engagement programs. We've also kind of looked at some of the ambiguities or challenges around eligibility for programs, and wound up adding some additional language to clarify things. For example, if a youth is enrolled in re-engagement program at the end of a school year, and then they want to continue in re-engagement the following school year, technically they're enrolled in school now, but we would say they are still eligible to continue in the program, even though they are no longer technically out of school. So things like that have been sort of some quirky, like administrative questions that have come to us. We've tried to clean that up. So that's what the rules do. We will share a summary with the council. The rules will be posted publicly. There will be an additional public hearing for public comment that ODE hosts these for their rules, and they always do it for ours as well. So we'll kind of talk about what the process is. And then we'll bring the final rules back to the council in March for adoption. And so that will require a vote. And our plan is to work with procurement on, as we're rolling out the RFA, our plan is for the applications for re-engagement for next biennium to reflect the new re-engagement rules. And so to be able to serve youth up to 24 and to kind of clean up this eligibility stuff. So we'll talk about the plans for how the rules factor into the grants as well.
Thanks, Cord.
That's great. Thank you.
Cord, you might, I don't know if anybody has opinions on whether that should be a separate agenda item or not. I don't know, Cord, something for you, me, or me, you, and Melissa.
It's separating as an item. I think that legislative update is kind of one set of information that it might be good for. That may be, you kind of talking really about the, changes, in administration, new legislators, et cetera, and kind of our plans there.
Yeah.
And then I could do an item on the rules and talk about that. Or Paul could do that one. I mean, I'm comfortable either way with as far as re-engagement rules go.
Okay, we'll make it its own item and then figure out, who's kind of facilitating, leading. And I just want to be respectful of your time. We're at 12:53, so we only have a few minutes left here. Those are that was the meatiest part of the agenda. We'll move at around 11:30 to committee updates. And just equity and disparity will have in some ways probably have said something. The Juvenile Justice Committee will had some piece of that earlier update around the juvenile crime prevention planning guidelines, but we'll see if there are any other updates from committees. That could be 10 minutes. I may hit most of the things that I wanted to say as a part of this earlier update around, governor transition, new legislator. So we can think through how to make sure that if there are other comments that either they're clustered or not, because I think the main thing that I will want to share is just the, as we're planning for the new governor and new legislators in the legislative session, and Cord, you and I might tag team a little bit on that. So director's update, we might actually take out and just focus on some of those other items as the primary piece, and because I think that's the main order of business for me. And since we will also have talked about the community conversations, that's been a piece that I've been a part of too. So that's
that portion as it is up. I agree with you, Brian. I think you're going to hit a lot at the top of the agenda, but I'm wondering if that director's update could be transitioned to something like director's roundup, because I think as we go through the full agenda, even with your shout, you'll hear comments, feedback, and I think there's an opportunity for you to kind of round it out at the end and to say, okay, I heard all of these things, delegate, I can speak to this, delegate, blah, blah, blah.
I like that.
Bring it home.
Yeah, little roundup. That's great, Robin. Great idea. So we'll leave it there. We just shift the name. Then we'll go to public comment. Speaking of public comment, I wanted to make sure we left a little space in today's meeting. I don't know, Melissa, if anybody has requested a desire, any interest or desire to speak. But I wanted to, I see Diana's here. Thanks, Diana, for being here. I will just call out Dr. Irvin Brown has, I think, been interested in some of the work of the Youth Development Council and showed up to today's meeting. So we just appreciate your being here. But Melissa, any official requests for comment?
Thank you. There are no official requests for comment. And at this point, Dr. Brown is our only remaining guest. We had 2 guests earlier, but they had to leave and they didn't have a public comment either.
Got it. I don't know, Dr. Brown, if there's anything you want to throw in, now's your chance. Nothing like putting somebody on the spot. And if you're muted, you're maybe muted. If you're talking, you're muted and we can't hear you. But if you're not talking, no worries.
Oh, no, I can hear you. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I'm well. I have no need for comment.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Anything, Robin, maybe I'll throw it back to you.
No, I'm good. It sounds like we've had a lot of feedback and I know we're running up against time. So Melissa, thank you for editing real time. It's exciting to see this come together. I think it's a smart move to move all of the business to the front. And Brian, I'm excited for the next meeting. I think it'll be a solid one.
Great. I really appreciate all of you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Have a good
Take
afternoon.
care.
Thank you.